Well, it is mid-January and conference races are heating up. Road wins are hard to come by, and home games, well, those are the ones you have to have. Who do you need to know about in the Big Ten right away? Well, how about let's talk about Nebraska. We're going to dive right in on the Huskers today here on Locked On Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, friends. It is Monday, January 20th, 2025. We embrace the observance of Martin Luther King Day today and hope you and yours are safe and warm on this frigid Monday across much of the United States. Oh, and there is a national championship college football game tonight. Buckeyes and Fighting Irish, they're going to square off in Atlanta. Hi, everybody. Missy Heidrick, national correspondent at The Next. Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Women's Basketball. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Now it's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Well, as we sink deeper and deeper into the conference races across the landscape of women's basketball, there's always those teams you should never take your eye off of. Big-time programs at institutions that are household names. No one can deny that. When you see that big block red N, and yes, we are talking about Nebraska. What is life like in the Big Ten these days? What makes this 24-25 women's basketball team click, and what lies ahead as they have their sights on yet another NCAA Tournament appearance? I am so excited today to have a longtime broadcast colleague and a gentleman I get to call a friend. He is the play-by-play voice of Huskers women's basketball and a man that wears so many hats for the Nebraska Radio Network, Matt Coatney. Matt, on a very frigid Monday morning, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I am so happy that you are here. How are things in your world, my friend?
It is cold in Lincoln, Nebraska today, but I get to talk to Missy, one of my favorite people in the world. I hate that you and I don't get to see each other like we used to back in the day when we were in the Big 12, but I am so honored to be here today. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, my friend. Nebraska joined the Big Ten in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. It seems like forever ago, and it really is. And over the course of time, as we have all witnessed this shift in the world of college athletics on so many different levels, I guess as someone who has watched that move, because you were at Nebraska when they were in the Big Ten or in the Big 12, and then made the move to the Big Ten, how has this resonated with, I think, one of the most passionate fan bases in the nation? I mean, Nebraska is the flagship institution of your state. What is life like, Ben, for Nebraska fans in the Big Ten?
You know, it's kind of been a moving target. I think when the school went to the Big Ten, there was a lot of unknowns. I think a lot of people were nervous. They were anxious. How was this going to play out? And I think with the majority of the landscape shaking moves that have made, especially in the Big 12. But you take a look at the moves in the SEC, the breakup of the Pac-12, conference realignment. I think after a couple of years, most Husker fans said, hey, you know what? We're actually pretty happy with what's happened here. Winning helps. You know, winning a Big Ten title in 2014 certainly helped Nebraska women's basketball. And, you know, in terms of women's sports fans at Nebraska, you put this logo, this N on anything, and you've got a guaranteed fan base. And the success of John Cook and the volleyball program, getting 92,000 in a football stadium for that, a rising tide raises all ships. It certainly helped women's basketball, softball at the university. So I think everybody is beyond being in the Big 12 anymore, because the Big 12 Nebraska left really isn't there anymore, except for a long time. You know, I think Nebraska misses playing Kansas State, Kansas, Iowa State, Oklahoma, certainly. They don't miss going to Waco. I will guarantee you that. but I think everybody's kind of moved on. It took a little bit of time, though.
No, I would agree. And you made a great point, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because not only are you the longtime voice for women's basketball, but you also do softball work, and you've been around the volleyball program as well. It just seems to me that there has always been not only a great passion and fan base for it, but a commitment to women's sports at Nebraska. Obviously, you have to have great leaders to be able to do that. But what really do you think has been the biggest piece to that type of success and having those people in place?
Well, I really think it started with the senior women's administrator, Dr. Barbara Hibner, back when I came here in the late 1990s. And I also think that including women's sports is part of the Huskers. When I was at Southwest Missouri State, it was the Bears and the Lady Bears. There was a big distinction in programs. You don't hear anybody say the Lady Huskers. If they do, that's not anything official. And I really think because of the things that Dr. Hibner did, and I think the consistency of message with marketing or radio network, that everybody kind of looks beyond gender and always has. And the women's programs have been very successful here. When you take a look back to the Paul Sandiford days when he came from Western Kentucky with women's basketball, Connie Yorey had an unbelievable 15-year run, and now with Amy Williams, Terry Pettit really kind of started things with volleyball, and John Cook has continued that, and Rhonda Revelle has been the head coach here for forever for softball. So you have consistency of leadership, you have strong administration, your marketing, everybody is on board under one umbrella. There's no difference really between the men's and the women's programs here. They're treated equally, and I think that's really where it comes from, Missy.
Well, and that makes such sense, and obviously, and that's longevity. And no matter how then schools navigate this ever-changing landscape and conference realignment, as we have all seen, sometimes stability is a really great thing.
Yeah.
That fan base, as I said at the beginning, you're the flagship institution. I believe that there's an unprecedented number of consecutive sellouts at Memorial Stadium for Nebraska football. One of the many hats to all of our listeners and watchers out there that my friend Matt wears is he's part of their football game day radio coverage. And God bless you. I know you have sat through some tough, rough post-game call-in shows over the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
With that said, there's something to be said about the Nebraska fans. And good, bad, or indifferent, they're in it for the long haul. That seems to be the idea. And when you think about both men's and women's basketball, that type of support, you don't find that everywhere. How unique is that to Nebraska?
It's very unique. I think I've got the greatest role in the world hosting Big Red Reaction, which is a 2.5-hour call-in show after every Husker football game, because people haven't had a chance to read every dog with a blog. They haven't picked up their local newspaper. I'm getting the raw opinion of Husker Nation, and some of them are really good opinions. Some of them are ponderously terrible, but you get that raw emotion, and Husker fans, I tell you what, they know when the wrestling team is hosting number 1 Penn State. They sold that out the other night at the Devaney Center. But football, as you've noted, it's the engine that drives everything at Nebraska, like it does at most schools. It's been down for a while. Matt Rule, I think, has got it pointing in the upward direction right now. But more than anything, Husker fans are Husker fans. They support men's basketball. They support softball, track and field. Baseball's been big here for many years. The uniqueness of this state is just what you said. It's the flagship institution. When there's a football game on Saturday, it's the 3rd largest city in the state, Memorial Stadium is. There's no pro football here to compete with. A Kansas State and a KU really kind of compete with the Chiefs a little bit when you take a look at the closeness of Kansas City. And Nebraska really doesn't have that. They don't really have that in-state rival. They don't have a professional team. So when I go to the western part of the state and I go to the Panhandle, man, everybody, their whole life is about the Huskers. And that's pretty rare among states around the nation.
Well, that makes it unique, but that is the beauty of it, is you want to have fans, you want to have people invested. All right, in a moment, we're going to dive into this year's Nebraska team. We're going to talk about the names you need to know, and we're going to talk about Amy Williams, why she's been the right person, the right fit, the right time at Nebraska for their women's basketball program. First, a message from our friends at Prize Picks. Well, basketball season's heating up, so there's no better way to get real money action while you're watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prize Picks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. You pick more or less at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You think LeBron's going to go for 30, or maybe Luka's going to get more than 8 assists? That's all on you. You can do it in less than 60 seconds. And with Prize Picks Flex Play option, even if one of your picks doesn't hit, you can still double your money. Plus, once you hit, you get your money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. So now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hi, everybody. Missy Heidrick. Welcome back to Locked On Women's Basketball. I am here with my dear friend and longtime broadcasting colleague, Matt Coatney, the play-by-play voice of Husker women's basketball. All right, Matt, we've talked about life at 60,000 feet for Nebraska fans and their athletic department. Let's dive into this women's basketball program. Receiving votes in last week's AP Top 25. They currently sit at 13-4, 11-0 at home, 5-2 in the Big Ten. I want to start at the top, and then we're going to talk about some of these outstanding players. But I want to talk about Amy Williams. You mentioned it earlier. There have been a host of great coaches at Nebraska. We can go back to Angela Beck, Paul Sanford, Connie Yori, and the historic run that she had there and the success she had. Amy Williams, an alum, a former player at Nebraska, takes over this. This is, I believe, her 9th year now.
Yeah.
What is it about Amy Williams that has really, what's clicked? What do you think it is about her coaching style, her philosophy that's had this long-term success in Nebraska?
A couple of things about Amy Williams. Number one, she's the most genuine person I've ever known. The person that you see on TV being interviewed is the person that she is at dinner. She's a mom. And for someone like yourself, you know how hard it is balancing being a mother and being a professional in sports. And Amy somehow has found that balance with her 2 daughters. She's got a very supportive husband, and Lloyd Williams she met. He was a coach, so he really understands what's going on. Her dad was a legendary high school coach in South Dakota. So basketball is part of the family. I think it starts there. The next thing I think about Amy Williams is she wanted to coach at Nebraska. This is her alma mater. It means a little bit more. You'll hear coaches say, hey, you need to play for the name on the front of your shirt. Well, Amy is coaching for that name on the front of the uniform at Nebraska. This is her dream job. I think it means a little bit more for her. She talks to me all the time about going to the training table as a player with some of the football players, then the chemistry labs, the biology classes she had. So I think the investment she has here is a little deeper than a coach who maybe, bounces around and is at different schools. But she knows what she wants. She wants to play her whole roster. She doesn't deviate away from that. You're going to see Nebraska play everybody if they're on the roster. And I think that gets back to her being a walk-on and looking for minutes and knowing what it's like when you're sitting on the bench and you don't get a chance to play. So she has been her philosophy has been fired by her father, her experiences as a player, her experiences in many places as an assistant and a head coach, and the impact of her husband and being a mom. So there's a lot in there for what makes her a success.
3 NCAA tournament trips, now this being her 9th year, so her first 8 years. Last year, they make it to the round of 32. They lost to Oregon State, who ended up in the Final Four. My question to you is this, because long-term sustained success isn't simple. It's not easy to do. And in this day and age, as we look at this craziness that is college basketball and college athletics, hard to keep kids, hard to keep your roster together. With that said, as someone who's around this program and you see it in a different through a different lens than someone, a trainer or a coach or a player. How do you define the culture of Husker women's basketball?
One word: family. Amy talks about family more often than not. You'll see little kids at practice, from coaches. You're going to see family members invited to come watch practice. It's about the culture, and I think that has helped Amy lock down local kids. She's able to get Alexis Markowski out of Lincoln, Allison Widener out of Humphrey, and a dynamic freshman right now in Britt Prince out of Omaha. That wasn't always the case here. Keeping kids in Nebraska is a vital part of that family atmosphere. And then the fans really lock on. I mean, fans love, Jazz Shelley was here from Australia for 3 years. Fans loved her. But, man, you get a kid out of Humphrey, Nebraska, playing for the Huskers and excelling, that makes everybody buy in a little bit more. And I think that works right into the family culture that Amy has built here.
You mentioned the hometown kid, went to Pius X High School out of Lincoln. I have been a huge fan of Alexis Markowski since she started as a freshman, I believe, and has been now a senior. She's a double-double machine. Talk to me about this senior leader and why Alexis Markowski has been so good and in this system at Nebraska.
Well, Lex is one of my all-time favorite Huskers, no doubt about it. And one, she's just a great person to begin with, and it starts with her mom and dad. Her father, Andy, played at Nebraska as a men's basketball player, and he's been on our radio network before as a color analyst. You'll see him on TV, kind of paralleling your career, really, Missy, if you think about it. The sisters play, the brother plays ball, but Lex wants to win. She's very competitive, and she gets the team very fired up. She's got size. She's always working on her game. She hit 6 threes against Iowa her sophomore year after she worked on her outside shot. You take a 6'4" post who can extend out beyond the perimeter, and that's a matchup nightmare for everybody. She works on something just about every year. Her field goal percentage around the rim has gotten better, but there's someone else who wants to play at Nebraska. She grew up in Lincoln. She watched this team play. I couldn't be more proud of her. Right now, with the injury to Natalie Potts, Markowski's getting more attention on the inside than Kim Kardashian. I mean, she gets a double every time, and she'll get 2.5 and 3 sometimes. When she sees a single team, she wonders if their whistle blew and she missed it. I mean, but she deserves it. She's first team all Big Ten, but she's just a great character person, and that's what it starts with.
You mentioned the injury to Natalie Potts. She was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year a season ago, goes down and lost for the year with that ACL. That's a big gap, and I think maybe it takes everybody a minute to kind of take a breath and say, okay, now you got to recalibrate a little bit because this kid's not going to be in your lineup. Because of that, talk to me about who's stepped up, who has risen maybe to the challenge, because we have this conversation all the time as, broadcasters, et cetera, to say, it's next person up. Someone's got to be ready to fill that space. Who's surprised you? Who's been able to be that here as they start looking at the long-term path in the Big Ten?
It's a great point, Missy. It is next person up. Nobody on your schedule is going to feel sorry for you that you lost the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. And Natalie Potts is somebody who can guard all 5 positions, and she had worked on her outside shot in the offseason, and I thought was poised to be first team all Big Ten. But I think it took Nebraska probably about 10 games to try and say, how are we moving on here? And they've not filled that position necessarily with somebody who, Potts is gone, put in this person. Jessica Petrie has started the last several games and has performed well, but it's been a team effort. Petrie, it works in there as a starting lineup, but the other night against Iowa, Amaya Hargrove stepped up with her first career double-double. That's a true freshman out of a small school in Illinois. And, I look at her and I just salivate with her athleticism. I think she went from being a 13th grader, which is what I call all freshmen, to being a freshman now after that big road win at Iowa. And I think Nebraska's moved on now that they've won a couple of road games at Rutgers in Iowa. They host Wisconsin tonight. I also think the guard play has stepped up. Alberti Rimdahl, you talk about transfers. She transferred from Florida. She stepped up. Kellen Hake has been a leader both on the floor and with a voice in the locker room. So Petra Bojan is somebody who came in late, freshman out of Croatia, who's had some big games for Nebraska. So it's not been one person replacing Potts. It's really been kind of a team effort on trying to fill that role. And it really has worked with the streak Nebraska's on right now.
Well, that goes back to what you were talking about. When you talk about family, you talk about culture, you got to stick together. Sometimes it's not always easy, but it seems as though they're finding the solution. When we come back, I want to talk about the freshmen. You mentioned Britt Prince, who's having, I think, one of those breakout freshman seasons. We're going to talk about her when we come back and what lies ahead for Nebraska. And oh my Lord, this path in the Big Ten, it's insane. Well, first, a message for everybody from our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, that's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or looking just to add a little bit of extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. And you know, everybody, if you listen to me, you watch this, I'm in Kansas City, so please just go ahead, put that money on the Chiefs. You know it's a done deal. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hi, everybody. Missy Heidrick. Thank you for joining us here again today on Locked On Women's Basketball on a frigid Monday, Martin Luther King Day, and so happy to have Matt Coatney, voice of the Nebraska Women's Basketball Program, with me. We've been diving into this group. We've talked about some of the returners. We've talked about some of the kids that have stepped up. One of them is a freshman, Matt, and she has been fantastic so far this season. She started every game, playing almost 30 minutes on the year. Talk to me about Britt Prince, this freshman from Omaha.
She has been everything advertised and more, and she's getting better and better every day. Everybody in Nebraska knew who Britt Prince was, State High School Player of the Year, second all-time in Class B scoring. Her mom coached her at Elkhorn North all 4 years and 4 state titles. You know, I told fans during the summer, do not expect her to be Jazz Shelley, who had a great career here and moved on to professional basketball. I said, let her be her own person. Jazz Shelley played the point guard here. Britt Prince is a point guard. She's very comfortable with the ball in her hands. And I think what we've seen in growth for Britt Prince is she's learned how to get Alexis Markowski the ball in a place where she can dominate on the inside. No low passes, getting the ball at a chin level where she can operate. Her defense has improved exponentially recently. She was quoted recently about I didn't like people saying my offense was ahead of my defense. I've worked on that. You know, I've been lucky. I've been able to interview Britt after the last 2 wins on the road at Rutgers and Iowa. And I told her, I said, the way you win road games in conference play is playmakers have to make plays. You have to make plays, and you did. At Iowa the other night, Huskers were down 11 on the road midway through the fourth quarter. And then with time winding down 3, Britt Prince stuck a three-pointer in the final minute. And that's a freshman doing that with the ball in her hands. You just don't really see freshmen wanting the ball. Very cool doing it. The impact of her mother, Ann, on the way she approaches the game, I think has so much to do with how she's played. And she's becoming more comfortable, Missy, with knowing that Nebraska needs me to get a certain number of points. And then with the injury to Potts that we talked about before the break, Amy Williams challenged Britt Prince to go get more rebounds, and she's done that too. So I don't really know what she can't do, and she's in the middle part of her freshman year, and I can't wait to see what this looks like year after year after year. But I'm going to enjoy it one game at a time, I can tell you that.
Well, no doubt. And I would make a point to everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm looking at this. When I look at this Nebraska roster and a host of these kids from the Midwest, Nebraska, Minnesota, Missouri, Illinois, one transfer that is coming. And a lot of these kids are upperclassmen or young kids, like you said, staying put. I think in this day and age, we don't see that much anymore. But that type of camaraderie, cohesiveness, you weather injury, but then you understand what's ahead of you. And that is a very difficult road, regardless of home or road, but it's a difficult path in the Big Ten. How important is that to have that type of roster that's stuck together?
I think stability is crucial, not only for the Big Ten, but any of the major conferences. You see so many teams that, they kind of have, this year's roster, and then you don't know who it is. I think Amy Williams has done a really good job of saying, we're going to have our core group that we're going to build from within and keep them together, like a Markowski, like an Allison Widener, Kendall Moriarty, Callan Hake, these types of players, and then bring in an Alberti Rimdahl, or last year, Jazz Shelley, who had transferred from Oregon. I really think that a lot of coaches are still trying to figure out how to do this. And I think Amy Williams is very comfortable keeping a core group together. And that helps you on those road trips, those tough games. I just shake my head at this Big Ten conference. I go back to that 2010 season in the Big 12 where Nebraska went undefeated in the regular season and two teams in the league made the Final Four and Nebraska didn't. And I really think right now the Big Ten is tougher maybe than that. I never thought I'd see anything like that. And so stability of roster is so important. You can do it for a season with a lot of turnover, but if you're trying to build for a long haul, which Amy Williams has done, I think that stability is number one, really.
All right, you're coming off an overtime win at in Iowa City, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, first win in Iowa City since 2018? Was that right?
That's right. Yeah. They've lost 5 straight over there. That's a tough place to play.
Very difficult place to play. Huge overtime win. Now you're at home tonight against Nebraska. Then it's Ohio State. 4 of the next 6 are at home. I said it at the top. This team is 11-0 right now at home. That fan base can be a huge advantage for them. What do you look for in these next couple games? Some tough challenges. Wisconsin on Monday today, and then Sunday against Ohio State. Let's keep in mind the Buckeyes just lost to Penn State yesterday. Now no longer undefeated on the season. But regardless, every night in and out, you are going to be challenged in the Big Ten. Your thoughts on this league and where it sits?
Preseason, I thought USC would win the Big Ten, and I said they may not even be the best team in Los Angeles. And I think that's kind of turned out. I've seen USC and UCLA up close. I think either could win the national title. I think UCLA's defense has impressed me this year. Nebraska played both of those teams back-to-back at over the new year. That was one of the toughest road trips I've ever been on. You talk about Ohio State's loss to Penn State, their first loss of the year. Let's not forget their great freshman point guard, Jelani Cambridge, missed that game due to illness yesterday. And Ohio State's next road game is at Nebraska Sunday. I'm sure my good friend Kevin McGuff is going to remind them about we're not going to lose another road game. So I don't know how much I think about that. Wisconsin only has one Big Ten win, and I think this is the best team they've had in Marissa Mosley's career there. Sarah Williams is the reigning Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. She's added pieces around her, including using the transfer portal. You look at Penn State, that was their first win of the Big Ten campaign, and they beat a top 10 team and a previously undefeated team. There's no night off in the Big Ten. If you think there's a night off, you're going to lose. And Maryland, they're a Final Four team, I think, and they may not finish in the top 5 of the Big Ten. So every night in this league, you better put on your big girl pants because somebody's coming for you. And there's just not a night off in this league. Nebraska, I think, has played very well to get to 5-2 so far in the league.
Well, they take on Wisconsin tonight, 7 o'clock Central Time, Pinnacle Bank Arena there in Lincoln, Nebraska. Oh, by the way, Matt will be on the call with his longtime broadcast partner and one of the best people to work in all of sports information and college athletics, Jeff Greesh. Tell me again what number of broadcasts this is that the two of you have done together.
We've only done 785 together. And, a lot of people, and not a lot of people, but there's some broadcasters who've done 1,000 broadcasts, but we're very proud, at least at Nebraska, and I think very few places, that nobody has gotten that number that we've done it together. We're very proud that we've done that number of games together. I love working with Jeff. I love being part of women's basketball. Obviously, I want Nebraska to win every game, but the contacts I've had going all the way back to my time at Missouri State in the 80s, I love women's basketball, love working with Jeff, and I love doing stuff like this.
Well, you have been fantastic, my friend, and we are going to, now I know that I can find you, and then we can do this more often. And so,
hey, I would love it. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yes, and then we could do all of the scoop and talk about all things Big Ten. Well, there's going to be so many fantastic games to see. If you're out and about, turn your radio stations on in the state of Nebraska and beyond. You'll catch Matt and Jeff on the call tonight as Nebraska takes on Wisconsin. Very well. Could put themselves back in the AP top 25 this week if they can. If not, they'll be sitting right on the outside looking in, but that's not a bad place to be. Matt, thank you so much, my friend. And where can everybody find you? Because I know you are also out there in the social media space.
Yeah, you can find me on the former Twitter, X, at Coatman1, at Coatman1 on Instagram. If TikTok stays around, at Coatman1 on TikTok. And then obviously you can find our broadcast on Huskers.com. I just have to say, I am the luckiest guy in the world to get to talk to you. I've had such great professional respect for you through the years, and you're the best. So thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate your time. And Amy Williams, one of the best people I think out there in our game. And she's got a fantastic person right behind her that promotes it. And that's exactly what you and Jeff do. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening, for watching. Join us. Follow me at Missy Heidrick on formerly X, Twitter, whatever we are supposed to call it. Then I need you to get over to thenexthoops.com. See all of my amazing colleagues there for the covers that will have you for all things women's basketball. And then every day during the week, come right back to Locked On Women's Basketball here because we've got you covered as well. Have a fantastic day. Stay warm. It might be a Big Ten victory in the national championship tonight. Can the Buckeyes pull it off, or will it be the Fighting Irish? We wait to see. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week.